The Euphrates is one of the most historic rivers in the world, featuring in many important chapters of human history. However, all is not well with the river, which has shocked scientists with the rate at which it is drying up. However, more concerning than the dropping water volume are the prophecies associated with the drying up of the river Euphrates in the major religions of the world. Is the drying up of the river showing us that the world is truly ending? Join us as we bring you what just happened with the Euphrates River that shocked scientists. The Euphrates is one of the most prominent rivers in Western Asia. Known as Frat in Turkish, it rises in eastern Anatolia, generally flows south through southeastern Turkey, around Şanlıurfa, Adıyaman, and Gaziantep provinces, before crossing the border into Syria and then Iraq, before emptying into the Persian Gulf in Basra, after joining the Tigris River in Shat al-Arab. The Euphrates' total length is approximately 2,800 kilometers or 1,740 miles, with 971 kilometers or 603 miles in Turkey. The Euphrates River has two headwaters, the Karasu and Murad rivers, which join somewhere near the Keban district of Elazığ province, where stands the Kiban Dam, one of Turkey's largest. Karakaya is another significant dam on the river. The river Euphrates has been a hub of human activities for thousands of years. The Euphrates River flows through the center of Babylon. Seasonal flooding was mitigated by steep embankments on both sides. The Tigris, Iraq's other great river, flowed just north of the metropolis, joined to the Euphrates by a latticework of waterways that irrigated the land, creating an agricultural bounty and contributing to Babylon's unparalleled wealth. It was nearby that King Hammurabi codified one of the world's earliest legal systems 3,770 years ago, erected massive walls, built opulent temples, and united all of Mesopotamia, the land between the rivers. In 597 BC, Nebuchadnezzar II, arguably the city's most powerful ruler, conquered Jerusalem and marched the Jews into captivity, giving rise to the 137th Psalm verse made into the popular song By the Rivers of Babylon. He also designed the Hanging Gardens, which were regarded as one of the seven wonders of the ancient world due to their tiered, lavishly watered terraces. There is no other city that approaches Babylon in magnificence, the Greek historian Herodotus proclaimed. Looking at the current state of the river today, it might be hard to believe, but this stretch of the river was once a showcase of water management in Babylon. Marching through the country of Babylon, Cyrus the Great and his army came to the canals which were cut between the Tigris and the Euphrates in order to circulate the latter's waters, which would otherwise drown all the adjacent country when the snows melt upon the Armenian mountains. Great canals as large as rivers ran parallel with the Tigris and Euphrates, and scores of others intersected the valley connecting the two streams. There was hardly a corner of the entire country that was not well watered. The canals also served as waterways for crop transportation. The river also served as a route for religious warriors who spread Islam throughout the Middle East. In AD 656, Ali ibn Ali Talib, the Prophet Muhammad's son-in-law, relocated the capital of his caliphate from Medina to Kufa on the Euphrates south of Babylon. Kufa's fertile fields of wheat, date palms, rice, and other crops stretched for miles from both banks. The Euphrates has been at the heart of many Iraqi cities' identities for millennia right up to our modern times. Take Fallujah, for example. The city's strategic location on the river drew a slew of invaders, from the Persians to the Romans who attacked Fallujah in the 3rd century AD. Caravans from Arabia stopped in Fallujah to water their camels in the river on their way to the Mediterranean. Uday and Qusay Hussein, the Iraqi dictator's sons, built villas near the Euphrates and created an artificial lake using the river water. Saddam Hussein built one of his 81 palaces in Iraq overlooking the Euphrates in Fallujah in 1995. However, the news from experts about the river is dire. The Euphrates and Tigris rivers in Iraq will run dry within 2 decades unless action is taken, according to a report by the country's water ministry. The bad news is that these two rivers provide up to 98% of Iraq's surface water supply. In fact, Iraq could become a land without rivers as soon as 2040. But what exactly is the problem with the Euphrates River causing it to dry up? It is very complex, but climate change, conflict, and indiscriminate dam construction in neighboring countries have all contributed to a water crisis that threatens the livelihoods of millions in the region. According to Berkeley Earth, a non-profit organization based in California that focuses on climate science, Iraq's annual temperatures are rising at nearly twice the rate of the rest of the world. Since the late 1800s, the world has warmed by an average of 1.3 degrees Celsius, while Iraq has warmed by a whopping 2.5 degrees Celsius. However, when speaking about the human-made part of the Euphrates problems, it begins more than 1,000 miles upstream near the river's catchment area in eastern Turkey below the Taurus Mountains. For generations, the Turkish government has been on a dam-building spree in an effort to generate electricity and create arable land. The Keben Dam on the upper Euphrates was completed in 1974. In 1990, the Ataturk Dam was also completed. The Southeastern Anatolia Project, a $32 billion scheme to construct 22 dams and 19 hydroelectric plants on the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, will eventually supply nearly 1/4 of Turkey's electricity. Meanwhile, Syria constructed the Tabqa Dam upstream from Raqqa in the 1970s and added a few more dams on the Euphrates and its tributaries before the civil war halted development. Since the Turkish and Syrian dams were built in the 1970s, water flow into Iraq has been reduced by nearly 2/3. For decades, Iraq has fought with both neighbors over its fair share of the water. The conflict came close to erupting into violence in the early 1970s when Turkey and Syria diverted the Euphrates River into a series of reservoirs, nearly drying out the river downstream in Iraq. In response, the Iraqi government built a network of canals connecting the Euphrates River to Lake Tharthar reservoir northwest of Baghdad. And according to the Iraqi ministry, the Euphrates River will only be filled to 1/3 of its original capacity by 2035. Combining it with the loss of the water in the Tigris, it will leave Iraq short of 80% of the 53 million cubic liters it consumes each year. And independently, a recent NASA German government satellite study concluded the Tigris-Euphrates basin loses groundwater faster than any other place on the planet except India. The World Resources Institute, a non-profit environmental organization based in the United States, has identified Iraq as one of the countries that will face extremely high water stress by 2040. The effect of the drying up of the Euphrates is already playing out and taking a toll on the citizens of Iraq. According to aid organizations, the current water crisis is already threatening the lives of not less than 7 million people in Iraq and limiting access to food and electricity. Wheat production in the north of Iraq could drop by up to 70%. The irrigation system would need a massive overhaul to improve the situation, which could cost somewhere between $50 and $70 billion, money that the struggling nation simply doesn't have. And this means starvation is looming. And apart from that, as dams run dry, the electricity supply suffers, disrupting the operation of healthcare facilities and other critical infrastructure. The drying waters of the river Euphrates, however, have had an unintended consequence: archaeological discoveries. Many of these formerly submerged sites are now turning up as the riverbeds run dry. According to scientists, the Euphrates riverbed has revealed 6 distinct historical eras, including Sumerian, Akkadian, Assyrian, Greek, Byzantine, and Islamic. Syria constructed the Euphrates Dam in 1968 without diverting the Euphrates River to the desert, establishing lakes there. As a result, the dam's lake, which had a length of 100 kilometers and a width of 8 kilometers, inundated the river's most important ancient sites. Only a few monuments and artifacts were saved. This area is home to numerous cemeteries as well as hundreds of Syriac Christian monasteries. When the sun is shining and the lake water is clear, the submerged cemeteries can be seen clearly. A few cemeteries have been discovered on the right bank of the lake in Raqqa's western region, but the left bank has not been explored as much as it is rockier, making digging work difficult. The receding waters of the Euphrates River in Anar, Iraq, revealed the ancient city of Talbs. In fact, Mohammed Jassim, an Iraqi archaeologist, reported the emergence of at least 80 historical sites as a result of the Haditha Dam's lower water level. The Department of Antiquities in Dohuk in the Kurdistan region of Iraq has also announced the discovery of a 3,400-year-old Mitanni Empire city that emerged when the waters of the Tigris River basin receded. The city, historically known as Zaghiko, was mentioned in Babylonian texts. It has a palace and several other buildings, as well as a large fence and cuneiform texts that were discovered. The researchers were impressed by how well many of the walls, which were made of sun-dried mud and had been submerged for more than 40 years, had been preserved. This is most likely because of the earthquake that destroyed the city. It turned the upper parts of the walls into rubble, burying and protecting the city for centuries. 5 ceramic vessels containing over 100 cuneiform tablets, some still in their clay envelopes, were also astonishingly well preserved. According to Peter Felsner, an archaeology professor at the University of Tübingen, the underwater survival of unfired clay tablets is close to a miracle. The team hopes that the tablets, some of which could be letters, will shed more light on the city and its ancient inhabitants. And it is possible that the site is the ancient city of Zaghiko, which was a major hub in the Mitanni Empire from around 1500 to 1350 BCE. The empire spanned just over 600 miles, extending from the Zagros Mountains to the Mediterranean Sea, and was one of several kingdoms and states founded by the Indo-Iranians in Mesopotamia and Syria. The Mitannis fought Egypt for control of Syria in the early years of the empire, till a truce was reached with the Egyptian pharaoh Thutmose IV around 1420 BCE. Around 1360 BCE, the Mitannis fell to the Hittite Empire and the Assyrians quickly took over the region. Apart from this, the receding waters in the Keban Dam Lake on the Euphrates River in the An region of eastern Turkey brought the historical Aztec castle, which can only be reached by boat, to the surface last year. According to Korkmaz San, the head of the history department at the Euphrates University in Turkey, the castle is thought to be a pre-Christian temple. He explained that the castle is made up of 3 floors carved into the rocks with Greek inscriptions on the inner walls. The receding waterbed of the Euphrates River and the discovery of archaeological sites is not new. When the dam lake's water level dropped in the 1980s, similar sites surfaced. Murraybet, an ancient settlement mound dating back to the Neolithic era, was one of the most important sites flooded by the Euphrates Dam water when Lake Assad was established. Its discovery shed light on the region's agricultural development, as well as the deification of women at the time. The Euphrates River flows through Syria and Iraq, while the Tigris River flows from Turkey to Iraq. As such, submerged archaeological sites will continue to resurface in these countries as a result of the river drying up. Meanwhile, it is not only environmental scientists that are paying attention to the drying up of the Euphrates River. This river has special significance in 2 of the most important religions in the world, Islam and Christianity, and their adherents are paying close attention to the prophecies tied to this river. Many Muslims are reminded of the various hadiths that mention the drying up of the river Euphrates, including, "Soon the river Euphrates will disclose the treasure, the mountain of gold, so who will be present at that time should not take anything from him." Sahih Bukhari. The Prophet Muhammad said, "The hour will not come to pass before the river Euphrates dries up to unveil the mountain of gold, for which people will fight. 99 of every 100 will die in the fighting, and every man among them will say, 'Maybe I'm the only one to remain alive.'" Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim. The Prophet Muhammad said, "The Euphrates reveals the treasure within itself. Whoever sees it should not take anything from him. It, the Euphrates, will uncover a mountain of gold in it." Sunan Abi Dawood. According to Islamic scholars, many of the prophecies made by Prophet Muhammad 1400 years ago, particularly those concerning signs of the Judgment Day, have come true. However, a prophecy concerning the drying of the Euphrates River and gold mining has yet to come true. This is a critical prophecy, as expected war is closely linked to the arrival of the Mahdi, and this is not improbable, as a finding of major gold reserves in the dried-up riverbeds can cause renewed civil strife between the various tribes in the area and even outside powers interfering in the business of the region. As such, many Muslims are closely watching the fate of the river Euphrates. However, they have a strict warning from the Prophet not to pursue the gold. However, there have been other interpretations of these Euphrates River prophecies. According to scholars, they might imply a period when the water of the Euphrates will be very valuable, like gold, metaphorically. The revenues to be obtained from the dams on the Euphrates might be indicated with the word gold. Furthermore, large gold and petroleum deposits may be discovered underground after the Euphrates water is drained. And what is more, such valuable elements can be discovered after land subsidence. And the Christians are expecting no less chaos also from events surrounding the Euphrates River. Ever since Jesus Christ said that only God knows the hour or day of the second coming, his followers have been predicting when it will occur. And now it seems the river Euphrates is the clue, the final piece to the jigsaw puzzle. Many people believe that key passages in the apocalyptic book of Revelation show the Euphrates' significance in end-time scenarios. The Euphrates River is mentioned in chapter 16, the chapter with the only mention of Armageddon in the Bible. The sixth angel poured out his bowl on the great river Euphrates, and its water was dried up to prepare the way for the kings from the east. Writes John of a container of God's wrath emptied on the ancient land of Babylon, now Iraq. The king's armies will march through the Euphrates Valley on their way to Har-Megiddo or Armageddon in northern Israel. And the Euphrates reappears a second time, this time with one of 7 angels whose trumpets warn of the impending final judgment. Release the 4 angels who are bound at the great river Euphrates. A voice commands the 6th angel of God, whose obedience unleashes agents of death, who had been kept ready for this very hour, day, month, and year, and were released to kill 1/3 of mankind. And the clincher comes next. In chapter 9, verse 11, John describes the leader of an army of locusts released to fight humans as Abaddon in Hebrew and Apollyon in Greek both mean destroyer. Casualties will be high not only among Iraqis, but also among people in neighboring countries hit by retaliatory missiles of mass destruction, as well as among Americans who are targeted by terrorists armed with portable nuclear weapons. And other countries will seize the opportunity to pursue their own interests, such as China attempting to retake Taiwan or India launching an all-out assault on Kashmir, resulting in World War III. The end result could be a nuclear holocaust that kills 2 billion people, or the 1/3 of mankind mentioned in Revelation. And another Bible scholar has pointed out how Turkey, through the Euphrates River, can trigger end-of-the-world events. He said, according to Revelation, the great Euphrates River will literally dry up, allowing the kings of the east to march their armies unhindered toward Jerusalem in order to take part in the final great battle against Jerusalem or Armageddon. And interestingly, the Ataturk Dam can be turned off, causing the river downstream to dry up and allowing the Antichrist's armies to attack the Holy Land from the north. And you may be shocked to learn that there is a historical precedent of Turkey using the dam to dam the river. Turkey, for example, dammed the Euphrates in 1990 to fill the Lake Ataturk Dam, an artificial reservoir. The scholar explained that the technology already in place to halt the flow of the Euphrates River could be another piece of the puzzle that makes the fulfillment of the book of Revelation in our lifetime a terrifying prospect. Let's hear what you think of the Euphrates drying up in the comments section below.